Mike Gehrig, managing director of the Motion Agency, talks to host Doug Simon on PR's Top Pros Talk.
Mike, what is the most important reason that media relations is crucial for crafting public perception for an organization?
Ultimately, media relations is a vehicle that allows an organization to connect directly to an audience. It's a storytelling vehicle, and it allows you to communicate messages in a targeted fashion, but it really allows you to expand upon a story that you're trying to tell. Communicate that story more thoroughly, communicate that story in a variety of different ways, take that story and get it out to a variety of different audiences in a targeted fashion. And when you're an organization like anybody right now that's challenged with so many different things that are happening, so many different ways to communicate with people, so much information that's out there, the media, because of its third-party credibility, because of the way that people look to it for information, if you can use the media as a channel to get your information out there, it can be extremely effective.
Yeah. Do you think a lot of communicators are undervaluing the effect that media relations can have?
I don't think it's necessarily undervalued, but I do think that sometimes the work that goes into effective media relations and the art form that is media relations is almost unappreciated. I use the joke of, oh, it takes 30 minutes to write a press release, as kind of an example of what it takes to craft a truly great media opportunity and essentially achieve what you're trying to do with a media opportunity, where you're trying to basically get something that an organization, a client, whoever it is, wants to get out to an audience. How do you do that, and how do you do that effectively? It really is an art form. You have to start by figuring out who it is you want to work with. You have to start by then have to figure out what it is you want to say. You then have to engage that person, frankly, really at the right time and right place so that you can capture their attention. You have to have the right thing that is going to be interesting to them. They have to be willing and able to work with you on that. And then you have to get that out. And ideally, you get it out at a time and place that is able to reach that audience. But if you can do that, it really can resonate with that audience that you're trying to reach. And that's why media relations is ultimately so effective.
So two things I want to just clarify. One, I do appreciate you. And two, I'm getting the vibe that it probably takes more than 3 minutes to put an intelligent media relations plan together.
Now, it really does.
Yeah, you often speak about the role media relations can play in boosting engagement. Tell us about how that works and how that affects your approach.
So if you're trying to get someone interested in something, whatever that may be, the media is a great way to tell that story in a way that, again, through a third party that's going to be enticing to people. It's going to show people, because it's not you standing up there saying that this is great. It's somebody that is actually showing that it is great. And they're going to create, everybody creates testimonials, everybody creates blog content, everybody creates a lot of information out there that is going to talk to why something is the way that they think it should be. But again, when the media or when somebody else says that, and again, they're not going to necessarily come out and say this is the greatest thing since sliced bread, but they're going to talk about, because somebody took this job, because somebody did this, because somebody bought this product, here's the impact that it had on their life. When you can actually have somebody do that, and that message then goes out through a media vehicle and reaches a whole bunch of other people that you want to reach with it, it's a very, very powerful thing. Ultimately, we also know that just doing that once isn't enough, that you have to do it over and over and over again to really get it to resonate with people and get it to create change. But if you can do that in a sustained fashion over a prolonged period of time, you do start to see people's attitudes and perceptions shift.
A couple of data points that relate to what you said. I am hearing that Gen Z doesn't hold sliced bread in such a high value perspective anymore. So that was some of the shocking outgrowths. Two, when it comes to the media that people trust and value, because obviously there's disinformation, different perspectives out there. What we found when we surveyed more than 1,000 people through Wick.io is both Democrats and Republicans exactly agree that local TV, and Pew came out with research on this, is the most trusted source of information. And in our survey, it was 85% to 15% that trusted it more than what they saw on social media. So what are some of the key factors to be thinking about when you're looking at your media relations campaign and want it to be successful?
That's really interesting. And I think it's all strategy specific, and it starts with what are you trying to accomplish? I had a great boss years ago who talked about, this job, well, not simplistic, what you're trying to accomplish somewhat is. And she said, if you give us a message, you give us the audience, we come up with the plan. And she talked about this. It's a map, right? So that's really what it boils down to in terms of what we're trying to accomplish. And I think, shifts in the media are natural. When I started my career, the Today Show, things like that were the holy grail. Those may not be right now. That may change again in 5 or 10 years, and that's okay. Podcasts, things like that. There's lots of new media opportunities, but there's still media. There's still vehicles, again, that are reaching people, engaging people, allowing, impacting the way that people perceive things. And I think it's really, if you sit down at the beginning of this, you're thinking about, okay, what am I trying to accomplish here? What action am I trying to solicit? What, idea am I trying to create? What engagement am I trying to drive? And then what are the buttons that I can try to push to do that? What influences this audience that I'm trying to reach? And to your point, if you're trying to reach an audience that does not watch network news, if you're trying to reach an audience but is very tuned into local news, that's a good data point. So don't go chase the wrong avenue, essentially. And I think you just, at the same time, it's, I've done a lot of corporate communications, and that was one of the reasons I loved corporate communications, was because the media still holds a lot of sway in that space. And it was really gratifying to work, A, the reporters are great, but B, just seeing the impact and power that media had within that space. And I think but you just have to sit down at the beginning of it, and it's not sort of a take and bake strategy where you just do the same thing over and over again. You have to really, sit down at the start of it and figure out, okay, what am I trying to accomplish here, and what do I need to do to accomplish that?
Yeah, and this is an issue that I feel every day that I'm working to try and change, which you spoke about earlier, about the value of media relations perhaps being underappreciated. For those not familiar, obviously we're getting our clients on broadcast TV as our core business with satellite media tours. Is there anything that can be done to change the perception? Because we do see obviously a number of clients get it. Fortunately, our business has doubled in the last 5 years. So even though maybe there's the hint of perception they don't care about it, there's sort of dollar-backed evidence that it is becoming important and remaining important. Are there things you think that can be done to make sure that it is appreciated?
I remember there was one instance I was working with a client, and we found that a story that we placed drove a whole bunch of traffic to an online store that then spiked one of the sale of one of the products.
Sure.
That is amazing, right? Like that's us actually driving sales versus impressions or anything, or anything else. Anytime we can, cite that type of an example, that should be what we lead with in terms of, the impact that we're making with a client. I think that sometimes we're just content to look at the results that we promised and, hey, we did this, and not sort of look underneath the skin of those results or the hood of the results, and try to figure out, okay, how did we actually really move the needle? And in an environment where everybody's charged to produce value, produce more value, and generate a greater ROI, how can we challenge ourselves to show that we're doing more, and to truly show the value of the product that we are creating essentially out of thin air in a lot of instances. And that can be hard because sometimes the value is amorphous. But there are, whether it's a brand study or there's a lot of different things that you can do. And I think that we should challenge ourselves to find new and better ways to show that value whenever possible.
Well, you've clearly showed your value in this discussion. Any final thoughts you'd like to leave our viewers with?
I love media relations. I've always found it to just be one of the most enjoyable and frankly gratifying parts of this work. And I would encourage anybody that's interested in it not to shy away from it. It's a great way to build relationships. It's a great way to learn about new things. And frankly, it can just be a lot of fun too. It's it comes with its own challenges, and you definitely will get hung up on and told no every now and then too. But at the same time, you can build great relationships with reporters. You can, and it is a fantastic feeling when you take something from start to finish and see that great placement, whether it's in the paper or on TV or wherever that appears, and then taking that one step further, understand the actual impact that it's having on an organization or client or whomever's business. That is an awesome feeling that I personally really enjoy, and I hope others do as well.
Great. Well, I've enjoyed this conversation. Thanks so much for being part of the show.
Thank you.